This is Swiss and Chips, your British guide to Switzerland. Hello and welcome to Swiss and Chips. I'm Jo.
And I am Simon.
And this week for our podcast, we asked in our Facebook group, Switzerland for English Speakers, what people would like the podcast to be about. Had loads of great suggestions, but one that had quite a lot of likes was from Igor, and he asked about driving here.
Yeah, first of all, thanks to everyone for all the suggestions. I think we have some ideas for all the upcoming episodes.
Yeah, for the next year or so, we'll be in business at least.
All of them need quite a bit of research, has to be said.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So driving was the topic.
Exactly. Igor wanted to know some things like, do you need to own a car here, first of all? How easy is it if you want to rent a car? And do we have any other tips about the laws of the road?
Yeah, the laws of the road.
The laws of the
Swiss roads.
Yeah. Take to the highway and keep on trucking for at least 5 miles.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So this is an interesting topic because we don't have a car.
Yep.
So we're the experts in not having a car.
Well, I did have a car, so...
Yeah, I've also had a car, but not in Switzerland.
Yeah, I did have a car in Switzerland.
And that's why this podcast works.
Fabulous.
So...
Okay, that was it. So
Yep, see you later. Thanks for listening. But seriously, owning a car in Switzerland.
Yes.
I personally think Switzerland has a really great public transport system. It's not exactly cheap, but once you have yourself a half-price travel card, you'll basically be okay.
Yeah, I think if you want the car or not, totally depends where you live and where you work.
Exactly.
So we have a good public transport, but yeah, it depends. You know, if you're somewhere off the piste, then maybe you want the car.
Yeah, off the piste, exactly. Yeah, if you live in like a big city, you don't really need one, but you might be going out into the countryside every weekend, or, you know, once you've got a few kids in tow, maybe a dog, a load of equipment, suddenly a car starts to look very appealing, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But if as soon as you live in a town, then you have great public transport. You are very well connected to other towns, and sometimes it's hard to find a parking spot, or it's quite expensive.
Definitely.
So having a car standing around doesn't really make any sense. So either you live very outside or you work somewhere where it really makes sense to have a car. But even then, for example, if you live in Bern and work in Zurich, you probably won't want a car and drive this distance because it's better by train, faster.
And there's so much traffic.
Yeah.
Driving between the towns.
Yeah, depends a bit which direction, which ways and so on. But yeah, in general, true.
Funnily enough, I just found out that lots of people in Switzerland actually lease a car. They don't buy them.
Yeah.
And this is a big surprise to me because I thought, everyone here has pretty modern looking nice cars, generally speaking, compared to the UK. How can everyone afford them when they're so eye-wateringly expensive?
Yep.
So tell me about this leasing business. What's that all about?
Yeah, like you said, you can't really afford it. And the leasing is not that expensive. I think it's a question of, what do you want and what do you want to pay for it. So if you, for example, if you buy a car for like 10,000 francs or 15,000 francs, so it's quite expensive already. And then if you want to sell it like 3 years later, then it's like 4,000 still. So you lost loads of money, and you won't lose that much if you just lease a car. So you pay every month a tiny bit, but it's not that much then if you actually buy a car and then you lose all the money that the car is worth.
Gotcha.
No?
Yeah.
Sure, you could buy a quite cheap car or a cheaper car, but it's unlike in other countries. Here, a cheap car might be something like 4,000, 5,000 francs or something like that. But that means that you straight away also will have to take care about it. It will break down, and there is a chance that it breaks down, and it will also cost a lot. And as the repairing is so expensive, so that means if you have to repair once something in a year that is also costing like 3,000-4,000 francs, then you would already have the leasing. That's one reason. And the second reason is, I think also people want to have safe cars. They want to have cars that don't take much petrol. And all these things combined, they make the leasing very attractive and not so much more expensive than if you buy a cheap car. But so it's almost the same price, but you have a great car.
Yeah, I think this might just be one of those kind of cultural differences, you know. that in the UK we're mostly buying cars.
Yeah.
I mean, buying them on credit probably.
Yeah, which is
still,
the same, basically.
Yeah, kind of.
No, exactly. It's basically exactly the same. Because also the leasing was, well, if you want to lease a car, just, inform yourself everywhere and so on. But basically, there are different models where you can say, oh, I want to lease it for 2 years or 3 years, kilometers included or not included. And most of the time you also get the option, if you lease it for like 2-3 years, then you can pay off the rest and then it's yours.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all sorts of these things are possible.
Yeah. Are there like kind of big companies in Switzerland that do the leasing, or do you just look around, or how would you go about finding out where you can do that?
I would go to your, how do you say that? To your
local garage.
Local garage of trust.
They'll have that written above the door in like a swirly handwriting.
No,
your local garage of trust.
Yeah, exactly.
Since 1982.
No, with me, I would go to a well-known garage
Mm-hmm.
that is well-known and bigger one maybe, and then they will consult you.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I would do it. Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't maybe go on something like Auto Scout, like eBay for cars, and just buy it from someone, because I'm also not a specialist. So I would take it over a garage, and they will. You can more or less trust them, I would say.
Okay,
so, yeah,
good. Good to know.
They will tell you how they do it with the leasing. And if you if you lease a new car, which you usually do, then it's usually official stuff. So you lease it by the car brand and so on. So
okay, like you'd lease it from Peugeot or something.
Yeah, and they say like, oh, this year we have a special offer stuff.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds straightforward enough, I think.
Yep.
Of course, if you don't want to go all in buying or leasing a car, another really good way of doing things is just getting a car for when you need it. And we've done this a few times, actually. First of all, of course, you've got rental. It's just all the big name companies are here in Switzerland as well.
This is super expensive. I wouldn't really recommend that, except if you come on a holiday and you want to rent for 1 day.
Yeah, I mean like Hertz, Europe Car Sixt, Avis, they're in all the towns, airports, just like renting a car anywhere else, basically. Moving on from that, we've got a couple of interesting car sharing schemes. Mobility is the big one in Switzerland.
Yep.
And they have loads of different types of memberships. It doesn't cost the earth. It's also quite easy to use, I think. Plus, their website is in English as well. It's a big plus for us and our listeners, I think.
It's very straightforward with their plans. It's basically you can have it for free, the plan, and then just the car rental is a bit higher, or the kilometers, or you pay something per year annual.
Membership.
Then it's a bit cheaper to rent it. That's
it, yeah. You can either be a member, you can pay an annual fee, or you can just kind of like pay as you go, basically.
Yeah, and then you get the mobile app and they send you a card and you just open the car with your card, rent
and then
it
off you
on
go, right?
the app and stuff. So it's quite self-explaining.
And it's really cool, actually. The cars are everywhere in all different shapes and sizes. You've for sure seen them. They're red.
Yes.
So that is really nice.
Not the Ferraris. They don't. They're also
you've
red,
seen them
but
everywhere.
it's not them.
And the doors open kind of funny. No, you can't borrow those, I don't think. The other thing that I heard about quite recently is Sharoo, where you can borrow cars that other people own.
So does it say Sharoo or Sharoo?
I think it's depending on how happy you are with the car. Okay. If you get a Ferrari, you'll be a Sharoo.
Got it.
And that's basically you borrow other people's cars and they set out their prices, how much you pay depending on the time and distance travelled.
Yep.
So you can kind of have a look around, see what's near you and just take someone else's car for the day or
it's
whatever.
Basically the same like what we said with mobility, but private.
Yeah.
So it's like an Airbnb for cars.
Yeah, car. No, that doesn't work. Air, car and car. Sharoo, they called
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
And why not, I say.
Yeah.
Of course,
it's much cheaper, has to be said. So.
Yeah, I know someone who's done it, went very well.
Yeah, very good.
All of this, of course, depends on having a driving license.
Yeah, it's recommended.
That's kind of a given, I think. Don't forget, if you live here, you'll need to swap your license for a Swiss one within the first year. If it's already too late and now you listen to this and panicking, I think don't worry too much. I haven't heard of anyone who hasn't been able to do that. I mean, where there's a good story, there's always a horror story.
Yep.
But if you haven't done it yet, I would just say go and try and swap it over and it'd probably be fine.
Yeah, we have a special present for them, but no.
No, I think it's all right.
Yep.
Well,
just don't tell anyone.
This podcast does not give legal advice. We should state that somewhere in the disclaimer. Yeah, so swap over your license. If, however, you can't drive yet, someone in our group, it was Cass, actually, who asked about a week ago, is there somewhere that he can do a theory test in English? And I said, I haven't heard of one. So in the process of preparing for this podcast, I looked it up and it turns out there are 9 cantons in Switzerland where you can do a driving theory test in English.
There is not 1, there is not 2, there is not 3.
9! 9 whole cantons.
Cool.
I almost didn't believe it when I saw that. But there you go, you can do that. There are also driving instructors who will teach you in English. Obviously, you're going to have to be able to read the signs because they're written in the language of where you live in the country, but
50.
That's not so complicated. I think you can learn them.
Yeah.
Stop, go, numbers are pretty much the same, let's be honest.
Red, green, orange.
Yeah, that's a prerequisite, I think.
Okay.
So there you go. You're off, basically.
Yep.
Any other top tips for driving in Switzerland?
Whew. Well...
Don't forget the wheel is on the other side, if you're coming from England.
Yeah.
Don't keep getting on the wrong side of the car.
Very good.
Never done that.
No, but I think one thing to know is the blaue Zone. It's quite...
Blue zones.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I mean, it is in other countries. They have it as well, like Germany and so on, I think. Mm-hmm. But you will see mainly in towns, you see blue parking spots. And that means you have a card somewhere in your car usually when you rent it. If you have bought it, then you can... Either it's already in your car or you buy it at every gas station. It's like a thing where you can say what time you arrived. And in these parking spots, you're allowed to park for 1 hour during working days, including Saturday. So basically, once you arrive, you just put the time on your card and you can put it to the next half hour. So if you arrived at 1 minute past 1, you just put it to 1:30, and then from 1:30 till 2:30, you're allowed to park there. And on weekends and at night, you don't have to put it, you can stay.
Fantastic.
So that's one tip. And yeah, if you lease or rent or buy a car in Switzerland, I would have a look. Before you do so, just make sure that you know where you live and how much snow is there. So you might want to have a four-wheel drive.
Four-wheel drive, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point.
Because in winter, if there is lots of snow, then you don't want to put on chains. So you make sure that also if you plan to drive over mountain passes in winter, then you want to have a four-wheel
drive.
Oof, now I'm done. Goodbye.
No. All right, yeah, some very practical advice there. Think about the specific snow conditions before you get your car. Cool.
So,
okay. Well, it's been great.
Yeah, and very hot. I hope everyone has been swimming.
Yeah. It's hot in the podcast studio today. Good. Okay. So we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with our next topic from the group. So
thanks everyone for listening, and thanks everyone in the group.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.